There's 5 former chairs on this committee. So I'm kidding, Glenn. I'm glad you can still have some humor with that. But the conversation was, it's a serious business that we're attending to. Got notification of the commissioner, and I'm sorry about her loss in her family. So that's, the OIG said that there wasn't ample time to get him here. And then the governor's office then worked with our committee administrator to say, yes, we know what you guys are looking for. We will get the right people there, right? And so with that, there's a couple of questions on the table for our committee to discuss. The Department of Human Services has said they will gather everybody that's needed for next week, right, including the OIG and including some of the governor's office, to be in front of this committee to talk about continuity of care. Would Monday work? Monday is next week, so as I'm hearing a Monday, then we would say Monday we would expect those people to be here. Option one. What do you want this committee members, what are you up for? You good? Chair, you're good? Senator Rasmussen and then Senator Gruenhagen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your desire and share your desire to have senior leaders from the Department of Human Services in front of this committee. I think there's a number of important matters that are timely for us to receive updates on. One is the continuity of care issue that we discussed in this committee at our last hearing. In addition, I would like to hear, especially from Commissioner Gandhi and from Mr. Clark, heading the Office of Inspector General, what their latest updates are on program integrity efforts. And also, they came out with a fairly major announcement yesterday or this week on transforming human services. So I would also think that that would be a topic for this committee to better understand as well, and what the implications of that are for Minnesotans.
Thank you for that reminder, Senator Rasmussen. So our committee administrator can make sure that that's followed up with an email and you get a response from folks on that one, because that absolutely, I agree with you on that one. So Senator Gruenhagen, to those points.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, my question would be, are we going to hear from Tim O'Malley? He's the one who came out there, appointed by the governor on fraud, and he came out with a report that was pretty indicative of the fraud that we have here, and he came up with certain recommendations, and I, for one, would like to hear from him. And I read part of his report at a previous meeting, so I don't know, just a suggestion.
You know, I like that. I just looked at Senator Rasmussen, and that was, were they hired under the Department of Human Services, or did Senator Rasmussen to that point?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Mr. O'Malley worked for the governor's office directly and reported to the governor. However, in his report, he definitely spent a lot of time and effort focused on the Department of Human Services, and recognized in his report cultural issues at the agency that have prevented program integrity efforts.
Sure. Yeah, Senator Gruenhagen, and then
he also had some recommendations, and I guess it would be nice to vet his recommendations in terms of controlling fraud. I found his report, I didn't read the whole thing, but I did read some of it, to be quite intuitive and insightful.
Okay. So with that, I just also want to the committee, we have very limited time. You know, we need to get bills heard in front of us if we're going to put something together. Just knowing that if we have a lot of informational hearings, or we spend a lot of time in informational hearings, the actions that we have all talked about, what we want to do, I'm just looking at that timeline shrinking for us. So Senator Abler.
Well, thanks, and I totally understand that. And I don't know if the O'Malley discussion would have any value or not at this point. It's kind of a report. I mean, we wish we had time. We do want to hear from Mr. Clark in particular, and from Ms. and Commissioner Gandhi. And if, you know, and we could spend, well, that'd be the entire day that we would spend on that. It's too bad that we had to waste some time today waiting for the people who weren't able to get here. But that's my thought. So, and we have a number of bills we have to develop. We have actually, in terms of the committee time, maybe there's some behind the scenes work, but in terms of, you know, the fraud and the, you know, trying to give some due process and so on. You know, we've been doing other things and no criticism, and some of the bills are slow to come, but we're going to need some time to craft something, and, you know, at least in the beginning, and then somebody works on it and brings an amendment, you know, in a day or two or something. And so I do have a question for you. There's a question at the end of that.
Senator Abler.
So, Mr. Chair, is there going to be a policy bill that we're going to move out of here next week specifically, or is it just all going to go into the finance bill? Can you just give me your thoughts on that?
My thoughts were this, that when we had talked, it would be nice to get as many individual single subject matters to the Senate floor at the same time, get a policy bill. In our conversations early on, which we all were having with the other body, that was the desire. So the answer to your question is yes, we want to do that. There is going to be and I don't know the answer to the third part of your question on the finance side. There's still debate on whether you do targets or you just do priorities. Do you do one big financial bill, which would be interesting because the person who's in charge of finance is also one of the biggest supporters of single subject line bills, right? So if you imagine that would, how that sits. So that is still our desire. We will connect with who are the two CAs in the other body, Megan and Simon, and to see where they're at in the process on those bills that need to happen, and we'll go from there. Is that helpful?
Well, that's fine. I just I chatted with your counterpart over there from your side of the aisle, and he was suggesting that maybe the stabilization repeal bill would be a vehicle, but that's not even here anymore. It got sent over to Healthland, I think. So just something has to match up. So I'm happy to help with that. You know.
Is that bill coming back, Senator? Is that coming back to us? Do you know, or do you know the disposition of that? Don't know. But if that's the case, then we need to have another vehicle.
And Mr. Chair, just for the sake of matching up, if there's something in there that takes it to the other committee, maybe we just take whatever that is out and just leave it the stripped down version of that and then use that as a vehicle. At least it would line up, and so you can chat amongst yourselves about that. Because if this place is in free fall enough without this most organized, focused department not being exemplary in getting our work done in an amazing way.
You're right. So thank you for that bit of advice. That's good. Anything else, members? I think we're good. We have in front of us, we slimmed it down with two bills on the agenda. We have Senate File 3484, which is the good senator from Moorhead, Senator Kupec, and I want his best radio voice that he can put in front of us. And then also we have Senate File 3681, Senator Mohamed. Senator Kupec, welcome to the committee. You have an A1 authors amendment?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, can I move the bill and the amendment?
Thank you. Senator Abler moves the A1 amendment. Any conversation? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. So that should be now in the form that you wanted this bill, Senator Kupec.
Yes, and mostly in the form that council advised me would be the better way to structure it. So I appreciate their work on this. So this bill relates to the definition of a partnership policy, and this came to me from one of my constituents. This is quite possibly the most difficult and frustrating bill I have had to try to figure out where it belonged. And so did my constituent. So what happens is my constituent, who you will hear from shortly, he has a partnership policy that he bought maybe back around 2010. Around 2016, the legislature changed partnership policies. And there is this thing called a 1%, a 2%, or a 3% inflator policy. And the legislature decided in 2016 that for what many companies understand is that going forward from 2016, if you buy one of these policies, you can bounce between a 3% inflator or a 1% inflator, or maybe you want a 2% inflator. when I talked to some of the lobbyists who worked on the bill back in 2016, they believed that that was not the intent of what they wanted to do, and that they wanted to allow people that had older policies to come in, but DHS interpreted that differently. It is also strange that this is a very odd sort of insurance policy that is housed by DHS, but in some ways overseen by the Commerce Committee. So I have to, before you hear from my testifier, I do have to give special thanks to a nonpartisan council, which took great interest in this bill above and beyond where they needed to, and did the kind of dive into it to figure out what happened back in 2016, where this went, who it was, and then magically in the fall, some folks who are here, if we need them, from the Department of Commerce popped on a Zoom call with me, and they know everything about this policy. So basically what the bill is going to do is going to allow what some of us think was supposed to happen in 2016 is to allow those people who had clauses before 2016 to then move and change between the different inflator amounts, in which cases, as the price has gone up on some of these policies, will save them money. And I will say that, you know, the people that have these policies in many ways are doing the right thing by taking these policies out. They're taking responsibility for their long-term care and their future, and not, you know, relying on the state after some kind of crazy spend down to then take care of you in that. And so the idea is too that if you let them buy at a lower inflator, they won't just say, it's too expensive and give up. And then eventually that would probably cost the state more money in the end. So it is good. And according to my friends over at the Commerce Department, they don't believe that the fiscal impact really has any fiscal impact on this, and it is mostly just a fiscal neutral bill. So it should have no budgetary impact. And with that, Mr. Chair, unless you have a question for me, I have my testifier, who is my constituent, that is waiting on Zoom to talk about his experience with this.
Would that be Jeff Freider? Did I say that name right?
As far as I know, yes, there
Awesome.
is.
Mr. Freider, for the record, could you please tell us who you are, and then the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Chair. Chair and committee, I appreciate your time. My name is Jeff Freider. I live in Moorhead, Minnesota. My wife and I, and I'll try to be somewhat brief here, and I appreciate Senator Kupec's carrying this as well. In May of 2010, my wife and I took out a long-term care insurance policy. The reason is we wanted to accept responsibility for our long-term care. And so at the time we took it out, I was 53, my wife was 51 years of age. It was about $2,000 a year. And over the time, like all insurances and the cost of everything, it's gone up, and I can understand that. But it's gone up to the point of becoming unaffordable. And I can give you some ideas here, and we have chosen to pay the higher premium to keep us at a 3% inflation factor, because that is the minimum we can carry in order to remain in partnership. And I just received my renewal to remain in partnership. It's $8,268 a year for my wife and I at renewal, which is May. If we were able to drop it to a 1% inflation factor, that premium would drop to $5,607, almost $2,700 difference. That's the difference of us keeping this policy. We cannot afford this to continue this, and we'll throw up our hands. And if the time comes, hopefully not, but if the time comes, we'll be like other people and depend on the state Medicaid to medical assistance to get us through. We don't want to do that. Our responsibility is our responsibility. We truly think that, and we've spent thousands of dollars over the last 16 years taking this insurance, carrying this insurance. When I first started talking to Senator Kupec, I knew that there was a change in 2016, I think, as the Senator mentioned, and for some reason we were not grandfathered in. As Senator Kupec said, I think that was the intent, but it didn't happen. And so we've been talking about this for the last 2-3 years. if there's a good reason not to grandfather us, then let me hear it. I've done a lot of research on it. I can't find any reason. The fact is, as Senator Kupec said, this is really a financial neutral bill. If we drop this insurance, we very well could, like thousands of other people in 10 years, 20 years, end up becoming dependent on medical assistance through the state. So we're just asking to consider allowing us a 1%, to drop it to a 1% compound factor instead of the 3% now. And as I mentioned, it's $2,660 a year difference in premium. We're kind of at the last straw this year. That's the difference of keeping the insurance or dropping it. And that's it. I'd be more than willing to answer any questions if you have any. And I, once again, certainly appreciate your time and concern.
Thank you, Mr. Freider. Member questions, Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, thanks for bringing this forward. In my insurance agency, I used to offer long-term care years ago, but now I've got an agent that does that and I've seen the agony of increasing premiums after people have paid for years and as they get older. And so I have a question for the testifier. Didn't your company offer you an option to go to 1% versus 3%, or did I misunderstand?
No.
Mr. Freider.
Thank you. They offered me a variety of options, and they have for the last few years. And yes, one of the options was to drop to a 1% inflation. But the trouble is, right now, under Minnesota statute, Minnesota does not recognize that policy as being in partnership. Therefore, we would lose that benefit.
Oh, okay.
Senator Hagan.
Well, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, thanks for that. I understand that. Because under the partnership, you can shield a certain percentage of your assets. Again, it's been a while since I've been in the long-term care. I got a different agent that keeps up on it. I'm just doing a little bit from memory. But can't you shield a certain percentage of your assets under a partnership long-term care?
Mr. Freider.
Yes, you can. And that's the whole reason that we've been paying extra money for this. Right now, I believe if you do not have assets, or the state would demand an applicant to spend down to $3,000 in assets.
Yep.
To qualify. The partnership allows you to increase that asset protection. I'll say that's the right term, but up to what your lifetime policy limit is. So if your lifetime policy limit is $300,000, you could have $300,000 before becoming dependent on medical assistance. Or if it's $150,000, whatever your lifetime coverage is, that's the amount that you can, of your assets that you can protect.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, thanks for that response. And thank you, Senator Kupec, for bringing this forward, because that shielding of assets is so very important. Again, in my years in insurance, I've seen people lose everything, and it is heartbreaking. And then you got other people hiding everything, and that's no good either. So if we can help out by keeping a policy eligible to still shield a person's asset, that is greatly appreciated. So I hope this bill becomes law. Encourage everyone to vote to support it. I don't know, is it being laid over or moved?
Senator Gruenhagen, we are going to move this to Commerce.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Senator Abler.
Well, thanks, and I think I worked on this back in that era. And so it's kind of a breakthrough for a way to try to, like already has been said, to protect people's assets. You spend down to $300,000 or whatever because you've already paid your own insurance toward it. So it's kind of a cool thing. And I don't know if you know the answer of the Commerce people that are around here. There's no, there were policies written that were not partnership policies. So do you have to have a partnership policy to start with to make this bill be effective? Or if you bought any old policy that was good for 100,000, is this going to include that in protection? Do you know?
Senator Kupec.
I believe it is just partnership policy, but if I am wrong and my folks from Commerce want to jump up here and tell me otherwise, I'm happy to have them correct me.
If they don't mind.
Senator Abel, I don't know if I'm seeing a thumbs up in the back.
Thumbs up, yes, then I have said it correctly.
All right, Senator Abler.
So there's no retroactive, if you're not a partnership policy, you're not in the partnership clause.
Right,
Senator Kupec.
yes, that is correct.
Senator
Thank you
Abler.
very much. That's it, thanks.
Okay. Members, any other questions? All right. With that, Senate File 3484 as amended, I will move that it be, nope, Senator Abler will move that Senate File 3484 as amended would be recommended to pass and be referred to the Committee on Commerce. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Senator Kupec, you're on your way to Commerce.
Thank you. And Senator Gruenhagen, if you would like to sign on to the bill, I would love to have you as a co-author. Yep, yes, I do. It's just, right now, it's Senator Rasmussen and I, so happy to have you. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Kupec. Senator Mohamed. All right, it looks like we first have Senator Mohamed's 3681. Senator Mohamed, would you like to start with your A1 authors amendment?
I'll start with my remarks and then we'll go through that. That's okay.
Okay, Senator Mohamed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last fall, the Department of Human Services identified 14 types of Medicaid services vulnerable to theft or misuse. They called those services high-risk programs and initiated change to how the state pays providers. These are not small programs. They include medical transportation that helps more than 200,000 Minnesotans get to appointments and home, and community-based care programs that care for more than 100,000 of our neighbors. The list created by DHS gives legislators an obvious assignment. There are 14 high-risk programs in Minnesota. It's our job to cut the number of 14 to 0, get rid of the phrase high risk and protect programs, and most importantly, prioritize the hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans they keep alive and well. Senate File 3861 is ambitious, and yes, but it's also simple. This legislation creates a universal approach to cut down on the vulnerability to theft and misuse in these programs, with safeguards from end to end and start to finish. We will protect the integrity of delivering high-quality care, first before the work begins, then again in lifetime, and in the moment it's delivered, and then finally afterward in the compliance and documentation. Let me walk through the major elements of those changes, starting with what comes before care is provided. This bill would instruct DHS to begin mandatory trainings for providers in these programs to fully inform them of existing and new requirements in these services. The bill would also, for the first time, introduce accountability for third-party entities that recruit, coach, and profit off of prospective providers in the licensing stage. Then at the time of providing, this legislation would require and provide for electronic visits verification, often shortened to EVV, to create a record of proof that providers are where they say, when they say, and in fact providing care for their clients. Then lastly, after the care is provided, the mandatory training for providers must include thorough education on billing, documentation, fraud prevention, and reporting. In a moment, I will ask Senate Counsel to walk through the specifics of the legislation and the amendment I'm offering. And I'll close by saying the issues facing Minnesotans these programs serve are as complex as they are vital. But our work here can be to simplify and strengthen the delivery process in a way that restores public trust and puts people first. Madam Chair, I will ask Liam to go walk through the amendment.
Thank you. Mr. Monahan. to the A1.
Madam Chair, members, I'll start by noting that a large portion of the language in the A1 amendment is a recodification of the provider enrollment statute. Does the chair have a preference on how much time I spend on that piece?
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. And when you say the provider enrollment, do you mean from housing stabilization? Mr. Monahan?
No, Madam Chair, I mean the MA provider enrollment statute. So every MA provider needs to go through various steps, and the department needs to take various steps in order for somebody to be able to bill and be reimbursed by medical assistance.
Madam Chair,
Hold on for, Senator Abler, do you?
just as a suggestion, could you go through what's changed instead of what just is moved around in the recodification style?
Thank you, Senator Abler. That was going to be my ask as well.
I'm
How
sorry,
about?
do you want to ask that question yourself?
Yes.
Thanks, I'll yield to you.
Thank you. Yes, if you could go through things that aren't currently law or that we don't currently have, just things that are new. Thank you, Mr. Monahan.
Very good, Madam Chair. So in your packets, there should be a bill summary. The first section of the summary is a description of the recodification, so you can skip then to page 3. That's where I'll begin. These are the new policy proposals that Senator Mohamed has put forward in the DE. So, and I'm going to be skipping sections of the DE in order to describe the new policy. So Section 3 of the DE amends the Department of Human Services licensing chapter, in particular the requirements for submitting a license, an application for a license by requiring an applicant or a license holder who elects to receive publicly funded reimbursement for providing high-risk services provided under the license to disclose at the time of application or renewal whether the application or whether the applicant or the license holder received any assistance from, say, a law firm or a consultant when they prepared their application or the materials they submitted with their application. Section 4 prohibits the Commissioner of Human Services from issuing a license if the applicant fails to submit the disclosure about whether they received assistance. Section 5, for reasons I won't go into, repeats the very same requirement again. Section 12 are the new provisions in the provider enrollment statute that apply to high-risk providers. Now, every single one of the policies I'm about to describe, it currently exists for some subset of high-risk providers, but not for all of them. So what Senator Mohamed is proposing is that these policies apply across the board to high-risk provider types. So subdivision 1, there in section 12, that's just stating that that the following provisions apply only to high-risk providers. Subdivision 2 is the mandatory compliance training that Senator Mohamed already described. Subdivision 3 requires that all employees of a high-risk provider who have direct contact with client must enroll as an individual in medical assistance. Currently, this occurs with certain high-risk providers. For example, PCAs or CFSS support workers, NEMT drivers. There may be others, but this would be across the board for all high-risk providers. who have direct contact. Subdivision 4, again, has already been mentioned. This would require the use of electronic visit verification for all high-risk provider types. Subdivision 5 requires that a high-risk provider get a signature verifying the provision of services. Again, some providers already have to do this. This would apply across the board. And finally, if there are any providers who aren't currently documenting travel time that they bill for, this blanket provision would apply to all high-risk providers who can bill for travel time. Skipping forward to section 16, this is the EVV, or Electronic Visit Verification Statute. This section modifies the definition of service for the purposes of EVV to include all services provided by a high-risk provider and to all home and community-based services reimbursed at an hourly or unit-based rate, who may not currently be designated as high-risk. Skipping to section 21, this modifies, or the first of a couple modifications to the home and community-based waiver regulations. So section 21 is sort of the other half of the individual provider identification number that I mentioned earlier. It requires anyone providing direct care to a recipient of waiver services to enroll as an individual medical assistance provider and to receive a unique provider identifier. So this would include services that aren't currently designated as high risk, but anything in the waiver. Section 22 requires or modifies the current documentation requirements to include the individual provider number. Section 23 creates an exemption for equipment and supply service providers that they do not need to have a unique identifier number nor to document it. Section 24 is the same documentation requirement for a separate subdivision that dealt specifically with adult day service documentation and billing requirements. And this would require that the documentation include the individual provider numbers for any registered physical therapists, registered nurses, or registered dietitians who provide services in an adult day service or non-residential program. Section 25 has procedures for how a provider who is currently subject to the compliance training can continue to be in compliance going forward. And Section 26 repeals language that would become redundant if this bill were enacted.
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. Before we go to question, Senator Mohamed, are you comfortable with us adopting the A1 authors amendment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, members, moves that we adopt the A1 authors amendment. All those say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, we've adopted the A1. Are there questions on the A1 or? That's right, there are. There are testifiers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to invite Mr. Berg, Mr. Zerbis, and Ms. Hagi Mohamed down to, nope, just two at a time. Mr. Berg, Mr. Zerbis, you can come down to the table. And on deck is Anissa Hagi Mohamed. I apologize. Zoom. Okay. Welcome, Mr. Berg. Introduce yourself for the record. You may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Josh Berg, and I am the Director of Minnesota Services and Strategic Growth for Accessible Space. Today, I'll focus on the EVV portion and a little bit about ICS with a few additional points on Senate File 3861 that need additional attention. Madam Chair, before diving in, I want to say this. Sitting next to arguably my favorite senator, I'm genuinely hopeful. I truly look forward to working with Senator Mohamed and all of you on this bill and others before this committee that strengthens program integrity, safeguards continuity of care, gives DHS tools it can actually implement, and stays grounded in real-world service delivery. And let me be clear. Despite comments yesterday from the governor, no one in this room is admiring the problem. We're doing the hard work of bringing real, workable solutions meant to keep people safe, stable, and supported. And I'm asking, along with you, Madam Chair and committee members, for the governor and the administration to join us in that work, not stand apart from it and point fingers. Let me start with the truth we cannot ignore. EVV works for PCA and CFSS because the services are literally built around 15-minute units with defined start and stop times. But most of Minnesota's HCBS system, including ICS, Adult Day, ACT, IRTS, recuperative care, don't work that way at all. These are whole-day, life-anchoring supports. In ICS especially, staff are already on site. They respond in real time to real human need. There's no arrival, no departure, and certainly no visit to verify. So when EVV is forced into this model, we don't get accountability. We get manufactured timestamps, distorted data, and an illusion of integrity that actually undermines the real thing. Madam Chair, Senator Abler, this isn't just a tuna net catching dolphins. This is a commercial trawler ripping through the entire ocean, scooping up everything in its path, including the very life it's supposed to protect. And ICS is misunderstood at a level that should alarm all of us. Ask 10 people what ICS is supposed to be, even ask 10 people at DHS what ICS is supposed to be, and you will get 10 different answers. The ICS we designed through DHS-led work groups is not the ICS OIG is enforcing today. That internal misalignment is destabilizing providers, confusing counties and case managers, and most importantly, disrupting the lives of the very people ICS was created to support. Those people, the ones that center all of this, are not confused. They don't care which license framework we fall under this month. They care that their support shows up when they need it, reliably from staff they trust in the way that protects dignity and autonomy. That is continuity of care, and that is the foundation of their stability. And ICS is absolutely not unregulated. Providers meet extensive requirements under 245A, 245D, and 256B. EVV doesn't add integrity to that framework. It bolts a time clock onto the natural flow of someone's life and calls it oversight. It distorts the picture instead of clarifying it. Meanwhile, DHS's shifting interpretations, rapid policy swings, misaligned funding, and a stressed housing market are all putting enormous pressure on ICS. EVV expansion won't fix any of that. If we truly want to protect continuity of care, then EVV must stay where federal law intended. Personal care and home health services that actually involve actual in-home visits. If EVV is pushed into ICS or other per diem models, that burden should be on DHS to prove it captures real care without generating fictional data. Until that happens, expansion only creates false noncompliance and service disruption, not program integrity. What we need is a clear, practical, enforceable path forward. It may not undo the harm this committee heard about earlier this week, but it can prevent the next one. Because when DHS or OIG over-apply or misinterpret their authority, continuity of care doesn't just weaken, it collapses. Lives unravel very quickly when that happens. That's why we submitted DE language this morning to the committee administrator, and why we respectfully ask you to hear Senator Fateh's Senate File 813 as soon as possible, so ICS can finally be implemented consistently and in alignment with DWRS and our existing licensing structures. Let me also briefly address several other parts of Senate File 3861. For years, this committee has heard about DHS failing to meet its own statutory timelines on enrollment and provider applications, including the 90-day requirement already in law, and you can see it on lines 4.11 to 4.13. These failures have contributed to ICS application pauses and now a moratorium on all 245D applications. Providers and the people they serve should not be penalized for DHS or lead agency delays. Section 8 must include language reflecting this reality. That section also includes a broad surety bond mandate. While well-intentioned, it creates a barrier that many small and mid-sized providers cannot meet, effectively advantaging large or private equity-backed organizations. We can protect taxpayers without eliminating or discriminating against community-based providers by allowing flexible financial assurance, a bond, a letter of credit, or a commissioner-approved equivalent. And while I appreciate the strong training expectations in Section 12, truly they are great proactive additions that should be included in the final language. I just need some clarity on how the individual provider number requirement works across every high-risk service model. If it mismatches the model, it becomes another barrier that threatens continuity of care. So let me close with this. Keep EVV where it actually works. Fix Section 8 so DHS delays don't cut people off from care. Replace the bond-only mandate with flexible financial assurance. Clarify Section 12 so oversight strengthens rather than strains service models. And schedule Senate Files 813 so ICS can finally get the clarity and stability it has needed for years. And here's the why. While we debate language and details, real people are losing the supports that keep them safe, stable, and housed. Continuity of care is not a talking point. It is a fragile thread that keeps Minnesotans from falling into crisis. And I want to end with your words, Madam Chair, as a reminder. We root out fraud without disrupting services to the individuals who rely on them. That is the heart of this work. That is the standard. And that is exactly why I'm asking you to help us stop the harm, reset the path forward, and keep the focus where it belongs, on the people who depend on these supports to live the lives they choose. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. Mr. Zerbis, you may introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, my name is Brian Zerbis. I'm the Executive Director of MARCH, a statewide trade association for substance use disorder programs and recovery programs and professionals. We support and encourage this committee's effort to improve program integrity and oversight. We want to ensure that potential changes have the right intended effect on enhancing oversight without undue burden. Peer Recovery Support Services is one of the 14 high-risk services. In 245G programs or substance use disorder programs, they provide both residential and non-residential services. Peer Recovery Support is an additional treatment service that they can provide or arrange for. 245F programs or withdrawal management are residential, and they must offer peer recovery support services as a part of their stabilization services. Lastly, recovery community organizations or RCOs are also vendors of peer recovery support services. After reviewing the description and requirements in Senate File 3861 and the A1 amendment, we have some questions and concerns about the potential implications of these requirements on substance use disorder programs, withdrawal management, and RCOs. First, in Senate File 3861 in line 2.5, it reads, all services delivered by a provider that is a provider type designated a high-risk commissioner. The concern with this is that it would seem to indicate that both 245G programs and 245F programs would be required to use electronic visit verification for all of the services they provide, not just peer recovery support services. Also, both of these program types are residential that are paid through a per diem. So the question again would EVV apply in a residential or per diem setting? The language in the A1 amendment in lines 22.5, or it's in subdivision 4, 22.5, and also in subdivision 16, lines 26.11, seems to narrow the scope to that the individual providing the high-risk service must electronically verify, et cetera. So if that's the case, specifically identifying peer recovery support as a service that's being provided, again, that would be a more narrow scope and less concerning. For recovery community organizations, treatment programs, and withdrawal management programs, electronic visit verification is an entirely new concept to them. It is not something that they currently do, so our members are quickly trying to familiarize themselves with what EVV is, what the requirements are, how to bring it up, train staff, et cetera. I'd also like to note that peer recovery support services was one of the rates included in the outpatient rate study that was delivered to this body in January of 2024.
I want to note that the current reimbursement rate for peer recovery support is $15, and in that rate study, it identified a need to increase the rate by 89% to get to $28.43 per unit. I bring that up because if these additional requirements are brought on for peer recovery support services and billing, it would add additional strain and oversight to an already underfunded service. So lastly, we hope the authors are willing to continue to work with substance disorder programs, RCO programs on finding a correct path that leads to the intended outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zervis. On Zoom, we have Anissa Hagi Mohamed. If you want to unmute yourself, introduce yourself for the record, you may begin your testimony.
Yes, thank you. Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Anissa Haji Mohamed. I am a parent of children with disabilities, a community advocate, and the board chair of Mangar Voices, an organization that works with immigrant and East African families navigating autism and developmental disability systems here in Minnesota. I'm writing regarding SF 3861, specifically the A1 amendment currently before the committee. First, I want to acknowledge the intent behind this bill. Accountability and program integrity in medical assistance programs are important. Families like mine depend on these services for our children's health, safety, and ability to thrive. Preventing fraud and ensuring responsible use of public funds is something we all support. At the end of the day, fraud hurts us the most. At the same time, I would like to share a few concerns from the perspective of families who rely on these services every day. Many families in the disability community are already experiencing significant workforce shortages. Parents struggle to find staff, agencies struggle to hire and retain workers, and services are often inconsistent. When new administrative and compliance requirements are added for providers, even when well-intentioned, there's a real risk that smaller providers and community-based agencies may leave the field. This could unintentionally reduce access to care for families who already face barriers, especially immigrant families, culturally specific providers, and families who rely on smaller agencies that understand their communities. I would encourage a legislator to carefully consider how these new requirements will impact the provider workforce and ensure that implementation does not create additional barriers to care. Families need both accountability and access. These two goals must go hand in hand. Finally, I encourage the state to continue engaging families and community organizations in these conversations, especially when carrying out training, which would then enable us to create a collaborative table working together for the same solutions. Parents, self-advocates, and community organizations have valuable insights into how policies play out on the ground, and our voices can help shape solutions that strengthen systems without limiting care. Thank you so much for your time and for your work on behalf of Minnesota families.
Thank you so much. Jennifer Diedrich and Ellie Skelton, if you want to come to the testifier table. Ms. Diedrich, you can introduce yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jen Diedrich. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer at MAC Midwest, formerly known as the Minnesota Autism Center. We're a nonprofit that's currently celebrating its 30th year of service. I'm also a member of ATAM, the Autism Treatment Association of Minnesota, who represents providers and families who rely on Minnesota's Early Intensive Developmental and Behavioral Intervention Program, known as EIDBI. The children served through EIDBI are some of Minnesota's most vulnerable. They are children or young adults medically diagnosed with autism who require evidence-based therapy to build essential skills. For many families, access to EIDBI services is truly transformative. And for some, it's the only resource left to them, as schools or day programs have referred them to us due to safety concerns. After us, emergency rooms or medical crisis units are the only remaining options. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony regarding the proposed requirements related to the surety bonds. We understand and support the state's interest in ensuring program integrity. However, the proposed requirements around surety bonds and maintaining 90 days of cash on hand raise serious concerns about the feasibility and unintended consequences. I have 4 main points that I want to quickly address. 1, the combination of Optum audits and prepayment review is already destabilizing the system. The current environment for constant audits, unclear expectations, and unpredictable payment holds has pushed many providers to the brink. Adding a surety bond requirement on top of this does not increase program integrity. It simply accelerates provider closures. We are all facing cash flow issues. Not only did the abrupt 30-day delay in payment that happened in December negatively affect our cash flow, but these delays have also continued. And now we're faced with the threat that there could be a 90-day delay in payment. Just to speak to us personally, our AR balance for Minnesota Medicaid as of today is $3 million, and of that, 1.4 is aged past the 30 days. Moreover, many providers are due a substantial amount of money now because of UCare's financial collapse. At MAC, our AR balance for UCare is $785K. So we're faced with not knowing if and or when we will receive the money owed to us by UCare. A lever that could be utilized by legislators would be to increase the long-term services and supports LTSS loan fund from $100 million to $636 million. That's the amount of money it would take to have financial capacity reserves for all of the high-risk providers for 90 days. Second, surety bonds create disproportionate barriers for small to mid-size and nonprofit providers. Organizations without large investors or private equity backing will face significant challenges securing a surety bond. These requirements unintentionally favor large, well-capitalized companies and place smaller, community-based providers at risk, even when they have no history of fraud or compliance issues. Many high-quality providers struggled to obtain lines of credit during the prepayment review rollout, when it was unknown how long a pause in payments would last. A reserve of 90 days is not feasible for providers not backed by private equity. It's an additional cost for already razor-thin margins. So for us at MAC, the minute we heard about the prepayment review, we began to seek out a line of credit. We met with 5 traditional banks that turned us down and 3 alternative non-traditional lending institutions. And we are only now finalizing a line of credit with one that has significant fees associated with it. To now obtain a surety bond, which we would have to be approved for and pay additional fees for, would be almost impossible and would possibly put many of us out of business. Third, a surety bond does not solve the real problem: systemic DHS errors and Optum's onerous review process. The Optum prepayment review process, layered on top of ongoing DHS system errors, has already created widespread payment delays and denials for legitimate claims. A surety bond does nothing to fix incorrect claim suspensions, inconsistent interpretations of policy, a lack of communication and transparency from DHS, system glitches, delays caused by Optum's algorithm and error flags, and the DHS enrollment delays of 30, 60, 90, and beyond days where agencies are not getting paid for the provider's work. Providers are being financially penalized for problems they did not create and that we cannot control. Lastly, the state already has mechanisms to hold individuals accountable. When fraud occurs, the responsible party under our program is the Qualified Supervising Professional, a QSP. The state already has the authority to hold QSPs accountable through licensing boards, professional discipline, revocation or suspension of credentials, site visits, or audits. If the goal is to deter fraud, strengthening and enforcing these existing pathways, in addition to the revalidating the site visits and the licensing of EIDBI agencies, that's far more targeted and effective than imposing financial barriers on entire organizations. Please take these things into account and help us stay in business, serving these amazing Minnesota children, young adults, and families for another 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Skelton, introduce yourself for the record. You may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ellie Skelton. I'm the Executive Director at Touchstone Mental Health. We've been around for about 45 years. We serve adults with serious mental illness, providing housing, treatment services, community-based services, and we've really been expanding housing options as that's such a huge need. We also do outreach to seniors with mental illness that experience loneliness. I appreciate many things in this bill, and I just want to highlight 5 things that are of concern. The surety bond's been mentioned. I think if we could even say 5% of the provider Medicaid billing of only the high-risk services and maybe a limit of $5 million, just to have some capitation, maybe that's meeting in the middle ground. I just feel like if it's all of your Medicaid billing, it actually might discourage people from taking Medicaid billing because, you know, we bill about $20 million in Medicaid. That's like most of what we bill. The second thing is I want to highlight the individual provider number. In theory, I'm not opposed to it. We are just going through so much right now with revalidation, UCare, so many things. To have that go effective January 1st, 2027 seems like a lot. And if it's tied to billing, it's going to have more reimbursement challenges. Could we just kick that off like 1 year, January 1st, 2028? It could go through net study. They said that there could be numbers associated with it. We don't have any issue with that. We can just put that in our electronic health record. I'm just not sure what the rush is. It'll be chaos, and I don't even know if we would be able to do it by January 1st, 2027. It's my suggestion. EVV, here is the language I would suggest. This requirement does not apply to services provided in a setting where the provider maintains staff on site and services are documented through the provider's electronic health record or other documentation system. So we provide IRTs, intensive residential treatment services, people that are usually coming from the hospital with a lot of psychosis or mental health symptoms. We have staff 24/7. We often have like 8, 9 staff on site. Would they all be checking in on the EVV app when they come to work and leave? We do that with our time cards, and we'll hand that over to any licensor. I just don't understand like how you would do EVV in an intensive residential treatment service. We have overnight staff. They log in and log out of work. We have 16 residents there. It just doesn't really make sense logistically, and I don't think it's getting to, EVV is meant for a home-based service where there's one caregiver going to meet with one individual. That's where EVV makes sense. Just exempt the places it doesn't make sense, which is residential settings. Signature required. It's kind of a tiny one, but our clients already feel like, please don't make me sign one more thing. We come at them and we're like, here, releases of information, authorization for services, one more piece of paper to have people sign, and it says something about law enforcement. A lot of the folks we serve have pretty significant psychosis, depression, paranoia. We already need some exemption for some forms because people really don't want to sign them and have symptomology that say, I don't want to sign anything. You can come here and work with me, but I don't want to sign that. If you want us to have them sign one more piece of paper for service verification, please give us an exemption if there's a psychiatric or medical reason that somebody doesn't want to sign it. And it could be a form designed by the commissioner, but we need that already with some of the other things working with the population. So don't make that one more barrier to access. And I understand we want to make sure people are doing the services, but really one more form. If there's fraudster, they're just going to make up that form anyway, and us good providers are going to be like, here's page number 12. Like, when's the last time you read your HIPAA privacy statement before you signed it? I mean, people will just sign it, so that's that. My last one is the travel. So one of my pet peeves, and I know you all mean well, is but when you give us a statute, and we already have a statute, and then we have 2 different statutes that are governing the same thing. So ARMS, Adult Rehab Mental Health Services, we bill for mental health provider travel time under 256B.625 subdivision 43. And it's a much more robust statute than you have in this travel time. So maybe in this statute, say, if you have a statute that governs mental health provider time, that's the statute you follow, and that we don't have to follow both of them. Because this is a much smaller version of how you do travel time. So just make us follow one statute, because if one gets changed and the other doesn't, and that's why we had to go through this whole, if you were here for USS, we had to go and read uniform service delivery, is that we started putting statutes all over the place and they started interfering with each other. So just please point to 256B.625 subdivision 43 for mental health travel time. That's it. Thank you. Appreciate your time listening to me today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Skelton. Before we go to member questions, Mr. Monahan, can I just ask really quick, because I'm looking at the Senate Council summary and I'm looking at the recodification sections, and I'm seeing the surety bond part as just a recodification. Can you clarify, is this new language that's applying to new places, or is this recodification and statute in the bill?
Madam Chair, that surety bond language is verbatim recreated from the existing statute that's being recodified.
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. Okay, that's helpful. Okay. Member questions. I'll write you down. I'll start with Senator Rasmussen, then Senator Gruenhagen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I really appreciate Senator Mohamed's work on this and for putting out important ideas on how we can program integrity here in the state of Minnesota. I think we've seen a number of bills, including one that I've introduced, look at this high risk, medium risk, limited risk framework, and I think that makes sense given the vastness of Medicaid programs in the state of Minnesota. We need to prioritize the most robust program integrity tools for the programs that we know are at highest risk. So I appreciate the work that's gone into this bill. Madam Chair, I do have an amendment that I'd like to offer. So I'll offer the A2 amendment and happy to describe it.
Senator Rasmussen offers the A2 amendment. Do we have this in our packets or does it need to be passed out?
It's in packets.
Great. Okay, Senator Rasmussen, to your A2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is familiar language to members. This is the Optum redaction bill that this committee heard and passed out of committee. I am still waiting for a hearing on that bill in the Health and Human Services Committee, so I thought it would be good to attach this onto an additional program integrity effort that I hope moves through this committee.
Thank you. Senator Mohamed to the A2.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. I am too with you that we should see that report fully, and so I will accept this amendment.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the A2 amendment? Senator Wickland?
I'll just express what I expressed before. I don't think it's really wise for us to be saying that we want to make the entire report public. And I think that goes along with other things, areas of security where we might want to learn from it, but to give the public detailed information about vulnerabilities and recommendations to fix vulnerabilities is not responsible. But if it comes on and goes to my committee, we'll have another discussion about it.
Thank you, Senator Wickland. Any other comments to the A2? Senator Abler?
Well, and I actually respect the comments of Senator Wickland. However, I think there might be less redactation, whatever the word is.
Redactions.
Yeah, but yeah, those. If there could be a third disinterested party who wasn't Optum or who wasn't somebody, just to make sure that, it's really pretty ridiculous what we got. I mean, there's nothing to learn from what we learned at all. Actually, especially given a process that's been so disruptive in so many ways. So maybe going forward, I don't know what the future of this amendment is going to be. It's certainly on our mind, and I'm going to vote for it now. But I think I don't know who you would put in charge of it. A different state agency who just doesn't care, the MMB commissioner or somebody that could just say, or somebody that's not interested specifically in that for they might look bad or something. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Abler. And Senator Rasmussen, I mean, I'll support the amendment. I'll just offer the same comments I offered last time, which is, we wouldn't want to put out a roadmap, but certainly, first of all, the legislature appropriated the money for it. We should be able to read the report. There's policy recommendations in there that I would actually like to see. And so maybe between here and Health and Human Services, we could even start there, like a briefing for legislators. So that would be my remarks, but it's the same as the bill. Senator Rasmussen. Chair Hoffman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And there's, we just got notification of some of the amendments to this redacting that came from the other body that look actually worth sending. So we'll have Sam send those along to Anna Burke and to the rest if you guys are okay with that.
Thank you, Senator Hoffman. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the conversation, and I too would welcome the opportunity for members of this committee to perhaps review a unredacted version of this report, because I feel like it would be very helpful for the conversation we're having today, right? When us as legislators are trying to identify the vulnerabilities within our human services system, and then we're trying to take action to protect our human services programs. And I think having this report and having some of the basic summaries of their recommendations would be very helpful in this policymaking work that we're running out of time to do. And so my hope is that that it just, we get the information. It doesn't necessarily, the bill doesn't have to get passed and signed into law. And I think this is a marker of this committee's desire to have better access to that information.
And Madam Chair.
Senator Mohamed.
Senator Wickland, obviously this bill is headed to your committee, so I'd love to chat before it comes to your committee as well.
Senator Abler.
Well, thanks, and I just, we'll talk about the bill. This bill is not ready to move. And so, I mean, if it's gonna go there, it has to come back here. I mean, there's just, we haven't had a chance to query the author about her intentions and so on, but, and Senator Rasmussen, it's already in the committee. I don't know why you need another one, but whatever.
Senator, we're only talking about this amendment. After we do our amendments, then we can talk about the bill. Yeah, okay. So all those in favor of the A2, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The amendment is adopted. All right. Senator Gruenhagen, you have an amendment?
Yeah. Yes, Madam Chair, but I just got a couple questions first. Can I, to the testifiers? Is that
Please,
okay?
Senator Gruenhagen.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to the testifier of autism. I would also say, Senator Mohamed, thanks for bringing this bill forward to make a swing at trying to address the fraud, okay? Yeah, my question is, the autism area's had a lot of controversy, you know that, right? Mm-hmm. And I have nephews on the spectrum, so I do appreciate, I want to help them, and I do appreciate the people who work with them, okay? But, you know, a couple questions in that area. According to the chart I have here, in 2017, we were spending $1,285,000 on autism, okay? By 2024, we're up to $228,000, okay? So it did explode, and you know that we had all of a sudden exploded from, I think, under 20 providers, or over 500 all of a sudden. So there seemed to be a connection between the explosion of providers and the cost exploding. And a lot of the providers, according to the information I have, weren't licensed. So do you have any insight as to what happened since 2017 to currently that has put the program in trouble and is having CMS federal dollars frozen for the children that really need the help, which I want to help, and I think everybody here wants to help, but the fraud problem, I don't know. Can you give any insight on that?
Before I recognize you, Ms. Diederich, I just want to make sure that we leave ample time to talk about Senator Mohamed's bill and the provisions contained therein, but I hear your question, Senator Gruenhagen. So to the question, Ms. Diederich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Multifaceted, especially speaking for our experience. So we have been doing autism services for 30 years. However, we didn't move to EIDBI until 2020. We were under CTSS, Children's Therapeutic Supports and Services. So I think a lot of the autism providers were under that benefit instead of EIDBI. So then we made the switch, and CTSS was the one, they would come in to give us our certification, and they're like, we're really rehabilitative. Autism isn't rehabilitative. It's a spectrum disorder, it's a neurocognitive disorder. It needs to, you shouldn't be using this, you should really go to EIDBI because it's a better benefit made for that population. So a lot of us did move from CTSS at that point over to EIDBI. I think, you know, why is autism as prevalent as it is? Better diagnostics, kids are living, you know, children that are being born are actually living longer because of our healthcare system. And then I think there is some truth to the fact that there has been fraud. And it absolutely pains me that it's in the autism field that this happened because EIDBI is so regulated and ABA, what we provide, so regulated. You have to be a licensed behavior analyst. You have to, you know, your center now has to have revalidation, and we're soon to have licensure next year. But I think a lot of people get confused and they think autism services are PCA services or that it's a daycare, and that's not it. This is evidence-based therapy that's happening for these children with data and graphs that you can see. It's legitimate. I think also The fact is that honestly, and I support DHS and I'm thankful that they are fighting the fight that they are to keep our funding with, the federal government. But the fact is, I can attest to it myself because I lived it, that when we enrolled in 2020, we had maybe 2 site visits for our 18 locations, and it wasn't until 2023. So I truly believe that had site visits been done when applications went in, then we would have, the fraud would be almost, there will always be fraud, but it would be almost non-existent. It's those site visits that really matter.
Okay.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, man. Thanks for that insight. I got one other question on autism, then I got a couple questions on the bill.
Senator Gruenhagen. Senator Gruenhagen, would you like to do your amendment?
Yeah, I will, as soon as I ask this question.
Okay. Senator Gruenhagen.
The other thing, the autism cost per child just skyrocketed. Now, I'm doing this from memory, but my wife tells me I have a good memory. So in 2017, I think it was $6,500 per autistic child, okay? And in 2023 or 24, it went to $45,000 per child. What's your insight on that? How did we go from 6,500 to 45,000? And then in addition to that, the number of autistic children in the 60s, it was like 1 or 2 out of 10,000, and now we're at 1 out of 36 or 1 out of 20 or whatever. I mean, it just doesn't sound right.
Right.
Ms. Diederich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to address that first, I think, what's really interesting, the U of M, bipartisan, just separate group, they work with the ADAM study where they work with a national group to find out what are the prevalency rates. So, and they've identified that, for Minnesota, it's 1 in 31. In Minnesota, in the Somali community, the new is 1 in 12. And I can attest, a lot of the Somali community that comes to us, they're profoundly affected. And so these are real kids with real issues. And I think that when you look at the prevalency rates, and I do think some of this goes back to under CTSS, what you could bill was different than what you can bill under EIDBI. EIDBI is a much more robust and a service that's meant for these kids. Again, CTSS, you can only bill rehabilitative services. Under EIDBI, you're allowed to do a real comprehensive therapy program. And I do want to offer to anyone on this committee to come and visit one of our centers. And we have one in Hutchinson, Senator Grunhagen, so we'd love for you to come at any point and visit us there. And we can definitely get anyone more information on autism, the rates, and what the expense actually is. Happy to sit down. I could go through rates per unit with you if interested.
Oh, thank you.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the other question about the bill itself for Senator Mohamed, how do you define high risk in here? I mean, it seems kind of arbitrary to me, or is there a objective standard where a NGO or an organization moves from standard to high risk? I just don't see it in here. Maybe I missed it.
Senator Mohamed, would you like to answer, or would you like me to?
I can start. What we're referring to mainly is the 14 programs that were regarded as high risk.
Yep.
I think it was like beginning of the fall. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Senator Gruenhagen.
So, Madam Chair?
Yeah, Senator.
Okay. Yeah, so I think those programs were identified by the feds as high risk, though.
The state.
Correct.
Senator Mohamed.
The state.
The state?
Correct.
Okay. Well, maybe I need clarification. I could talk to you later on that.
Senator Gruenhagen, why don't I direct you to 16.24 of the DE, and it says designating categorical risk levels, and then it lists the types and then names the criteria. It's in the federal regulations, Title 42, Section 424.518.
Okay. I probably got to look at that a little bit closer.
Well, the state sent a letter to CMS beginning of the fall.
Identifying them as high risk.
Identifying these 14 programs as high risk.
Okay.
Mr. Monahan, would you be willing to share with us the criteria?
Madam Chair, no, but what I will say is there's a lot of moving parts here, but the feds identified particular Medicare provider types, and they put those in statute. Then they said states for Medicaid-only providers, you, the state, need to designate providers in these various categories using the same types of criteria we used when we did it ourselves. And so you have to go read the Federal Register and figure out or divine how they came up with designating their Medicare provider types, and then the state applies similar criteria to the Medicaid-only providers.
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. Senator Gruenhagen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'll watch the YouTube again to see if I get that all, okay? So it doesn't sound like we can clarify it. Anyway, at this point, I'd like to offer my A3 amendment.
Senator Gruenhagen offers the A3 amendment. I believe that was also in packets. Okay, great. Senator Gruenhagen to the A3.
Okay, the Department of Human Services has not been following the laws that we have on the books. Now, that's been reported that laws were put on the books back in 2018 to address the fraud problem, and they were just ignored. I have talked in this committee how if the agency would follow the laws that are already required to follow, we likely could have stopped billions of dollars of fraud from going out the door, including listening to the employees who were trying to blow whistles to prevent the fraud. This amendment would put a penalty in place to ensure the Department of Human Services is fulfilling the duties that are currently in Minnesota law. The section that this bill amends is not new. Today, DHS is required to conduct site visits to validate and revalidate providers. They are required to do that today. This amendment says that if the site visits are not done as they're supposed to be done, a portion of the budget will be withheld from them. Once the site visits are shown to be completed, they will be made whole. In other words, up to 10% of their funds can be withheld. Now, this isn't new. We see the state does it to cities, to school boards, and to counties, that they have to do things a certain way or they withhold certain funds from them until it's done the way they want it to be done. And of course, the federal government is doing that right now. Okay, what does the amendment do? It reinstates the on-site inspection language currently in the bill that requires DHS as a condition of enrollment, allows various entities to conduct unannounced site visits at any provider location. Line 1.8 requires DHS to conduct pre-enrollment and post-enrollment site visits of each provider designated as moderate risk or high risk to verify that the information submitted is accurate and the provider is compliant. And again, we have alleged billions of dollars of fraud. That's why I believe that's necessary. Line 1.13 directs the Commissioner of MMB to withhold 10% of the DHS administrative budget until DHS provides documentation to MMB that they have fully complied with the site visit requirements in this bill and in federal law. Again, in the past, it seems DHS has ignored certain laws. DHS, line 1.21, if DHS does not provide MMB with documentation proving they complied with the site requirements, the 10% administrative funding is returned to the general fund. In other words, they lose the funding if they don't cooperate with state and federal law. The amendment is effective July 1, 2027, and I'll stand for questions.
Senator Mohamed to the A3 amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen, for the amendment. I will say I understand your intent, and I think there's enough blame to go around when it comes to this issue across the board. I would love to keep working with you on it, and I would ask if you would be open to withdrawing it with the intent of working together on the amendment.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I I would like a vote on it, but in the consideration for your request, if we could, maybe my LA could be in contact with you, we could set up a meeting. And I just think we need some consequences. And one of the reasons I said the 10% is because I've seen it in action when I was on the school board. We had to do things a certain way to get the full funding. If we didn't do it the way the state wanted, or in some cases, the U.S. Department of Education, we didn't receive full funding. And I give you specific examples if you want.
No.
So I think maybe this can be reworded some, but I think that approach gets the attention of the government entities. And here's why. In government, you have no competition. That is one of the main problems, right? When you have no competition, people tend to do what they feel like doing sometimes. And of course, we've seen that. When you have competition, it kind of keeps you honest. And this is a way, when you lose funding in government, I've seen government pays much closer attention in order to get the funding. So look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
And with that, I'll withdraw the amendment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think Ms. Dietrich's testimony is why an amendment like this is so important, where you heard that DHS, even though they were supposed to be doing site visits, didn't do their site visits for years. And that's been one of the core problems with this fraud crisis. In many ways, it's not that we don't have enough laws, rules, and regulations. It's that DHS isn't doing the work to actually follow the law and the regulations that we have on the books. For example, we know that in certain areas, the department is years behind on doing required site visits. That's leading to fraud. The Department of Human Services has been talking about electronic visit verification for years. I think 2018 is when there was a major piece of legislation on requiring electronic visit verification. Most states have implemented EVV for a lot of these high-risk services, yet we still hear it's potentially years away from being implemented here. Unfortunately, we don't have many tools to tell DHS to please do your job. We saw this with a Office of Legislative Audit report where there was requirements on grants management before dollars went out, and they didn't do that work. And then when they were being audited about not doing the work, they fabricated documents to try to cover their path. And so as a legislature, we can pass all these rules, we can pass all these laws, we can require site visits, but if the Department of Human Services doesn't do it, we don't have recourse. And I think that's why an amendment like this is important, to show that we're done waiting for them to comply with the law. We're done waiting for them to get caught up on site visits. We think it's a priority if we're going to protect taxpayer dollars. And if they're going to get money for their central office, they should do the work that's in statute.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. I had myself on the list next, and then it's coming to you, Senator Aki. Mr. Monahan, can I ask? I'm sorry, Senator Abler. I will come to you. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, this is a really meaningful bill, and we burned up a lot of time on things we've talked about before, with all respect. And so we have 5 minutes left on a bill that's well-intended, but I just want to ask the author if you will yield. You heard some testimony. I'm sure you found that noteworthy, and you're going to take into consideration all the comments that they said, right?
Absolutely. Senator Mohamed. There you go.
Thank you.
Senator Abler.
Well, thank you. And this is going to go to the other committee. This is our first bill trying to deal with fraud. It's very complicated. There's lots of tentacles to it. There's lots of unintended consequences. I think if there's an error in the department, how they've done their work with Optum and the prepayment screening and the credible allegation of fraud stuff, and that they didn't talk to anybody. I think the bill the proposal from yesterday was more evidence they didn't talk to anybody about that either, even the counties have to do this stuff. And so it's just whatever we send out of between the two committees, I think needs to be something that's really thoughtful and is going to actually deal with the issues with people who should be, poked at, and while the other companies that are doing amazing work are left scot-free. like Mac and like Touchstone and other places like that. So I think if we move the bill, if I suggest we just send it without recommendations and then it has to come back here, then I'm totally happy. The author I know is very diligent, so, and I'll help you any way I can. So if you want to just agree to that or say it sounds good or something.
Thank you, Senator Abler. I do want to make sure we vote on the A3 before we kind of go to final
I think
questions,
he
comments.
moved it.
Oh, you withdrew it. I missed that. I'm sorry, Senator Gruenhagen. Great. Okay, so Senator Utke, to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll try to be real quick because Senator Rasmussen covered a lot of what I was going to say. Just encouraging Senator Gruenhagen and Mohamed to follow up and continue to work on this A3 because it is important. We've seen in the past, we've passed a lot of legislation to combat fraud and, ask the agency to do certain things. It doesn't get done. And audit reports are a great example. We've seen the audit reports come through and suggested, in fact, in strong words, suggested changes that need to be done to clean up the operation. They get ignored. The only thing that I truly believe they understand is money. This goes after the money. That will get their attention. I think it's a great place to start, and good luck as you work on this, because we need some way to claw back. We're partners in this, but we need them to work with us rather than just on their own. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Utke. So I will say, Senator Mohamed, I really appreciate all of your work on this. You have spent so much time digging into the details. And I'm glad to be a co-author on the bill. I will say that, there's a lot of places to point as we find ourselves trying to work through program integrity. But I think one of the things we have to acknowledge as a legislature is that when we starve the government of money, the government doesn't have the resources to do oversight. That's just true. And so, we did it today on the floor with the housing bill. We said the agencies that are going to administer the money for emergency rental assistance, you don't get any money in order to staff up in order to do that. And we do that over and over and over again in this legislature. We constantly say that. Cut the administrative amount of money and just get it all out the door, but with whom? And then how do you do oversight? And so I have a bill that will be coming that tries to get our arms around like how much that is and how much we've underfunded program integrity and the resources to do it. But this is a really good start. I think there was a lot of feedback today that we'll want to maybe make sure we get answers on and make sure we have the best bill going forward. So I want to thank you, Senator Mohamed. Members, because we're at time, I'm gonna move to.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Senator Mohamed, I'm so sorry. Can you make closing comments on your bill?
Yeah, thank you. I know that obviously we dropped this DE amendment, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning that it's ambitious, but what we're dealing with is a serious issue. And I think in this body, what I've learned the last year, it's been a year, is that the folks here care about the people who receive these services. And that is, at the end of the day, what we should be doing. And that's the intent in this bill, is to close the loopholes in our system so that people can continue to get the services that they deserve. I'll continue to have conversations with providers as we move forward. But that's what I'm focused on this session, and I appreciate all of you.
Madam Chair, I just got one quick comment.
Hold on, Senator Gruenhagen. I'm actually going to make sure that we have Senator Mohamed moves that Senate File 3861 as amended be recommended to pass and be referred to the Health and Human Services Committee.
Madam Chair,
Senator Abler.
I'd just like it to be moved without recommendation. This bill, I don't want to terrify everybody. I know Senator Mohamed's working on this, but the testimony is just, it's going to come back here. So let's just move it, give it go there. When it's recommended to pass, that means the bill is recommended to pass. And I'm fond of the author and want to work with her, but this bill should not be recommended to pass. That's all.
Senator Mohamed, to your motion.
Thank you, Senator Abler. I will ask the committee to pass it as it is recommended to pass, and I'll say it's because I think we spent this entire summer working on this legislation, making sure that the rest of the session we'll make sure we have conversations with people across the board to have those conversations. If members want to bring an amendment to HHS, which is where it is headed next, they're more than welcome to do so. You are sitting in that committee. And I think it might be back, it's probably back here, so I'll ask members to vote on it
Mr. Chair.
as amended.
Well, Madam Chair, but maybe I'll defer to you here, Mr. Chair, on how you'd like to move forward.
So here's what happens if the passed without recommendation, you're going to have a unanimous vote here.
No.
Yeah, you would. I think you would. Well,
No, I mean, well, it would be.
I'm looking at.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Hi,
yeah.
Jim. Did you go to math class the other day when you and I were having?
It would be, yeah.
That's funny.
I misunderstood, sorry.
I'm sorry. 4-4 means that bill then dies. We don't want this bill to die. We want this bill, right? Unless we can get a 5-3 vote out here. That's my only concern is I don't like the unknown. I think the conversation, it's amazing. Senator Zainab Mohamed did this work on her own with Liam. I love the leadership that I'm seeing here. This committee of all places, Senator, right? So I'd like to see it move on and come back to us, and whether it's with recommendation or without, it doesn't matter. The fact is it's gonna come back to us. So it's up to the author. I don't like taking a bet that it could fail 4-4.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not here to ruin any bill or anything, but this is our first bite at this apple. There are no less than 6 of these kind of topics coming. And at some point, we want all these to come back so that they're together, so that the terms are all consistent. And I will take the author at her word that she's going to engage in conversations. But I think the department sat down. They made us some great ideas. They worked all by themselves. They didn't talk to anybody. And as a result, the industry has lost $100 million in cash flow with the prepayment review process.
Yes.
The shocking number.
Sorry,
to
Madam
save
Chair.
$5 million. And so just want to make sure that the world knows that whatever leaves here with whatever recommendation or not is going to come back here as a thoughtful product, and we're hopefully going to get a unanimous vote at the end on the product. So that's all I'm after.
Me too.
And so I'll engage with the author as she likes, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. So I don't care what the motion is.
Who's the chair right now?
I'm the chair right now. Yes, I'm the chair right now. And I want to remind everybody that the motion before us is Senator Mohamed's motion that Senate File 3861 as amended be recommended to pass and re-referred to the Health and Human Services Committee. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate the conversation here today. This is a big body of work, and I appreciate Senator Mohamed's work on it. I'm glad that the bill will come back to this committee, because I think we'll develop new ideas on program integrity in the coming days that I think could be incorporated or adopted in other bills that will be leaving the committee. But I think we should move it out today, and I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you.
To the
Everybody
motion.
else got a comment?
To the motion.
Nice. Yeah, the motion is that this bill, or whatever else we do, I think needs to be orientated to release the $500 million every quarter that the feds give. So what we're doing actually will bring us into compliance with CMS so that we can get the federal money to meet the needs of the people who really need it. I don't know if this bill does that or not, but I think that should be the highest priority, so that they release those funds so we can use them to help the people of Minnesota. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Okay, so Senator Mohamed renews her motion that Senate File 3861 as amended should be recommended to pass and re-referred to the Health and Human Services Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Senator Mohamed, you're on your way to Health and Human Services.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, would you like to wrap us up and give any announcements?
I'm so grateful when I can absolutely take care of things I need to take care of. This committee, I just give the gavel, and it was all the good senator from Anoka started this tradition 13, 14 years ago. But nice job on the work on it. Monday we will our committee administrator is sending out the request to get the folks here on Monday. We would expect them to come in and do that. But then what gets me is we have a lot of bills that need to come back to us, especially on the program integrity stuff. So I'm asking members to think about, would Fridays work for anybody and everybody to be able to get together? Or, what other alternatives do we have within our scope of work? Senator Abler.
I think an evening makes sense. If you want to do like a fraud evening or something like that, where we can actually, but you have to get a bunch of stuff together. We're not going to do it in time for first deadline, I don't think, because there's, a lot of the bills aren't even in yet. I mean, the revisor is just historically slow, but there's a bill that I worked on that I think we submitted a month ago, and we're still waiting for the jackets to come.
Well, that was the same with the law. We had a bunch of trooper bills that we were working on before December, right? I mean, there's some public safety stuff, which is really important things. And we finally got those, and we're still going to make some changes to them. So to that point, I don't think.
So maybe after first deadline, like the Monday night or something like that.
Okay. Does that make sense to you, Sam? That after that first deadline, that Monday night, or go to an evening? Yeah, I'm good. Is everybody okay with that? Huh? I got thumbs up?
Before the deadline.
Did I say after? Yeah, I mean before. Thank you.
Not the break week.
See, I should be the one doing math. I'm sorry about that. So all that, members, any other comments regarding that? We will see you Monday. Have a great weekend. We are adjourned.